Hello, everyone. Welcome to Advertising in the Age of AI. We're going to dive into everything Google Ads and some LinkedIn ads to talk about why the fundamentals still matter in this age of AI. Now, I'm your host for today. I'm Purna. I am the principal consultant at LinkedIn, and I'm also the author of High Impact Content Marketing. Today, I'm so beyond excited because we have everyone's favorite, the most much loved Ginny Marvin, who needs no introduction, of course, but just in case, let me just read out like this amazing career that Ginny has and how fortunate we are to have her. So Ginny is the former editor-in-chief of Search Engine Land, of Marketing Land. She's a well-known expert in digital advertising and marketing who has written about news and trends in the sector and contributed to the New York Times, Business Insider, Washington Post, and a whole bunch of other publications and outlets like the NPR. She's currently at Google as the Ads product liaison, where she helps answer questions about Google Ads products and policies work, and basically brings to the industry just relevant insights and perspective to make us all better and more successful. And most of all, Ginny is also a dear friend who I have loved since the very first time I met her about 15 years ago at this point, but who's counting, Ginny? Yeah, back when we were only 10 years old, right, Ginny? We
Exactly.
met as children at SMX. But Ginny, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Purna. And it's always just such a delight to chat with you. And, as you noted, we go way back to early days. And so it's just so lovely to be here.
It is super lovely to be here. Now, Ginny, I know I've known you for a long time, and so have a lot of people like learned from you, watched you, but I want to ask you a more deeper question. So this is something we love to ask at LinkedIn, which is, Ginny, what's one thing that is not on your LinkedIn profile that you think people might want to know? And to give you some time to think, let me tell you mine, which is that I am obsessive about vegetable gardening. And I spend all my time, so in the Northern Hemisphere right now, it is summer. And so I spend all my free time in the garden, tending to my plant babies to the point where my husband and son are like, I'm giving up on you, no more plants, stop it. So that's me.
I love that. I could probably use a little help on that front. I tend to completely ignore my gardens and spend as much time as I can out on the water. I live in Maine. Some may know, but I am on the coast in Maine, and I guess one thing that's not on my LinkedIn bio is that every summer I teach women how to sail. I do a volunteer course every summer and teach 4 or 5 women for a couple of weeks each summer how to sail, which is great.
That is so cool. I have never been sailing in my life, so maybe that's something that I need to take you up on it. We'll come down, we'll chat vegetable gardening, go sailing. Hopefully I shall not fall in the water too many times. But
I'll teach you sailing for some cucumbers.
That will be awesome. Well, anyway, for those of you who are joining, we'd really love to hear from you as well. What's something that's not on your LinkedIn profile, or share your LinkedIn profile link so we can all connect with each other. You're super welcome. Like Anton will bring up Ginny and my LinkedIn profile. So make sure give us an ad, follow Ginny for all of the amazing news and updates. So speaking of amazing news and updates, Ginny, there have been so many announcements coming out of Google Ads recently. I want to turn it over to you to share with us what are some of the latest and greatest, and what are some of the advice that you have for PPC marketers today?
Great. Yeah, I have some slides I can present, and if I can figure out how to do that. Anton, do I need to take control of that, or is that, There we go. Okay, fabulous. So I'm going to spend some time talking about some of the big announcements that came out of Google Marketing Live last month. And one of the reasons I have loved being in this industry for so long is the pace of change. I know it can feel overwhelming at times, but along these longer trends, whether it's the rise of social media or mobile or AI or regulatory and privacy changes, we've been through these massive shifts before. But the thing I want everyone to kind of take away from this is, amidst all the innovation and new technology, there are fundamentals of marketing that really don't change that much, right? Our core raison d'etre does not change very much with these new tools. The way that we market changes, but these fundamentals pretty much stay fairly consistent. And so what we bring as marketers is still like foundational to success. And every time we go through these massive shifts, there are changes that we need to make and ways to adapt in our work. But as marketers, I feel really deeply that we remain foundational to the success of our campaigns and our marketing efforts. So first, I'm going to we'll dive into some of the new things. I'm going to focus specifically on announcements that revolve around ad creatives for the purpose of this discussion. So I'm not going to be touching on every single update that we had, but starting with a couple of the early tests that were announced on the creative side. So ads and AI overviews, this used to be known as Search Generative Experiences, or SGE, when it was exclusively in labs. But we'll soon start a test in the US, English only. It'll be small, to show text and product listing ads or shopping ads within the AI overviews. And so the thing to know about this is that we're going to be matching your ads based on both the both the query and the information in the AI overview. So right now we serve ads either above or below the AI overviews and based on the query. And this will take into consideration both the information within that AI overview as well as the query itself. And this will be serving through search campaigns, your existing search campaigns, your existing standard shopping campaigns, as well as PMAX campaigns as well. So that's something that's on the horizon and will be coming soon. This is, again, just a small test and no action to take at this point. The other one I wanted to highlight is, it's called Search Ads with AI generated recommendations. And I know that's a handful to wrap your head around, but basically what happens in this is a whole new interactive experience. And so in this example, what would happen is the user can click on the learn more box or kind of pill there and have the option to upload pictures from their house. So this is somebody who's looking for extra storage, or they're moving, say, and they can just take pictures of the rooms in their house that will then, AI will generate kind of an inventory list of the furniture and items within those rooms that you may need, you may want to be putting in their storage unit. And then it will suggest the size storage unit based on your feedback. If you say, yes, this is exactly, this list that you pulled together is what I am looking for a storage unit, it will give you a suggested storage size unit based on what you have available. And then it will also add things like packing supply recommendations and things like this. So the thing to think about here that I find so interesting is this kind of a thinking ahead on how AI might be helping evolve what ads look like in the future and the user experience within those ads and what you're able to deliver along the customer journey in a more meaningful way than we're able to now. So it's just kind of a really cool example. That's going to start again. It's in very small pilot right now in the US. And so stay tuned for more on that to come. All right, now I want to look at some of the updates around making it much simpler to generate on-brand ads and scale your on-brand ads. And this has kind of been a big ask among advertisers. So thinking about PMAX, something that got announced is brand guidelines. And with this, this will show either during your campaign construction, and you'll be able to either the system will auto detect your brand colors based on your website, or you can enter exact hex codes of the branding colors you want to use. It will also detect and suggest a similar font to what's on your website, and you can make changes to that as well. So it really is going to help inform those the auto-generated video ads and the responsive display ads in PMAX. And then the other thing is the templates have been updated and modernized. So they're going to be just much more visually appealing. This brand guidelines is now in beta and will roll out in the coming months. And similarly, this is called image references in asset generation. Again, this will happen. You'll be able to do this during PMAX construction as you're creating your campaigns. And essentially, you'll be able to upload one reference image that reflects the visual style of your brand and a text prompt that then you can then generate more similar images, again, using that reference plus your text prompt to generate and be able to scale much more quickly, and again on brand. So this will be rolling out soon, like now, this quarter, and globally, and in English at this point. So I think these couple of things are really going to be important as we're thinking about really leveraging the AI while still keeping that brand voice and brand reflection in your assets. And then image editor. So this has been out, but there's some new updates here. And so image editor, you can remove, add, or replace elements from product images from your Merchant Center feed. You're now going to be able to generate new scenes and backgrounds, and you're also going to be able to, you can change the images to be able to fit any size, orientation, or aspect ratio. And so this is kind of cool. You're going to be able to say, so what this is indicating here is the advertisers has drawn a box over this picture of a couch, and you can enter in, create a painting in modernist style, and it will generate a painting within that image that you can then use and serve in your ads. So really cool things happening here. This is in pilot, and everyone can expect availability later in the year. So I think this is going to be really powerful for retail customers in particular. And another cool thing, so Product Studio has, which debuted last year in Google Merchant Center, is also has a couple of new features. And I can't make the GIF work right now, it seems, but essentially what you're going to be able to do is take your product images. You can remove the background. You can then upload reference images that are reflective of your brand. So in this example, what happens is there's an image of a man walking on the rocks along the coast, and you can upload that kind of explain a little bit about what the image is. And then what you'll see is this bag just sitting on the rocky coast. And those images that you generate in Product Studio, you can also download those and use them in your other marketing efforts. So not just within the Google Ads ecosystem. And those will become available. These new features. The other thing another quick update on this is the ability to turn your product images into kind of video assets with like subtle, cool animation. So it's basically taking the assets that you have and then extrapolating those and making them more usable in various forms of inventory. So really cool updates there. And I did want to make one quick note about lookalike audiences in demand gen campaigns. If you're using demand gen, which is serves on Gmail, Discover Feed, and within YouTube, you can now use lookalike audiences if you just have a seed list size of only 100. This is down from 1,000 users. And lookalike segments can be used for getting for targeting, but also getting additional insights for affinity, in-market, age, gender, and other demographics insights. And this is available globally now in all languages. So if you haven't used demand gen or used lookalike audiences in demand gen because you've been kind of restricted by the list size, take another look at that because you need just a list size of 100 now. Okay, so this is the question that we hear all the time, right? How do I stand out if everyone is using AI in their ads? A couple of things I want to note for Google is our generative AI creative tools are grounded in your own assets. And so this is really underscoring the importance of your landing pages, your existing assets. The prompts that you use are going to be the tools that inform the assets that are generated for you. So the more unique and reflective of your brand and your business that those landing pages, assets, and prompts are, the more unique the generative assets will reflect your business. So it's really important, I think, to understand the grounding in your assets is important from a veracity standpoint and being able to reflect your business. But again, going back to the fundamentals of paying attention to your landing pages, your existing assets, and those prompts is going to make your assets shine that much brighter than those that you're competing against. And so when you're thinking about using and making the most of AI-powered creative features, you want to be focusing on, again, your website and landing page accuracy. If you do not want to be using a lot of these features, if your website content is lagging behind what you're actually offering. So really keep that in mind. If your site's not updated on an ongoing basis, you're going to want to think twice about using generative creative tools. Strong branding, again, what we're now being able to see how you can leverage that branding into these tools. Strong branding has always been really important, even more so now in this era, and having a robust differentiation strategy in your assets, again, really going to help set you apart. This is just a fundamental marketing criteria that is just going to shine even brighter now. And again, your manual assets that highlight your unique selling propositions and your differentiators are going to be super, super helpful. I just quick plug for an article I just wrote this month for Search Engine Journal to highlight, basically trying to function as a primer for all these tools, because I know it can feel overwhelming and what does what and how do I use XYZ. So check that out, and hopefully it's a good resource for you. And if not, I would love your feedback. But that's really kind of the aim there, is to just kind of bring everything into an easy access primer format. Okay, couple of things I do want to note when you're thinking about using generative images is you want to review. We kind of talked about this. A lot of these options you'll have before you publish. In campaign construction, you'll have the opportunity to review those generated and suggested assets. You want to make sure they're accurate, that they're not misleading, that they're in line with the policies, the applicable laws within the locales where you're advertising. And then also note that when you're doing image prompts, you may see errors because Google Ads AI tools they'll avoid generating images if they use branded items and logos, faces, children, specific people, including celebrities, public figures. They're also not going to respond to opinion or advice type prompts. And I just think about images. Obviously, we want to stay within policy. So think about that. If you're getting errors, they'll indicate why you're getting that error, but that's why. All right. And lastly, I just want to spend a quick bit of time on responsive search ads, kind of really focusing in on the fundamentals, because search is still very important, obviously, and there's a lot happening within responsive search ads. So quick, just brief on what responsive search ads are designed to do. So when a query comes, responsive search ads are going to look at all the available assets within your ad and assemble combinations that are based on the relevancy and expected performance for that query. And so maximizing the number of relevant and diverse assets increases the combinations that the system's able to serve. And then the best combination, again, that combination that's predicted to be have the best performance based on your goals, is the one that's going to serve in the auction. And there's a continuous learning happening within the RSA model to learn which assets and combinations perform well, again, for each query. So the higher the query volume, no surprise, the more effective the learning is going to be. And so when you're looking at performance labels, asset performance labels are the way that we currently report on how an individual asset is performing. Some things that I want to highlight with performance labels is that they are showing how each asset is performing relative to the other assets, the other like assets in that same RSA. So they're competing against each other. And it's, again, performance is based on your advertiser goal. I get asked that a lot. What does performance actually mean? So it's going to be reflective of your goal. And the ones that are rated best are those that are outperforming the other assets, whether it's driving clicks, conversions, than the other headlines or descriptions in that ad. And the one thing I really want to highlight here is that you may see some assets have low impressions, but high rating. And that is because this is sort of the beauty of RSAs, is that you're able to capture users and queries that you may not otherwise have been able to, because you've got certain assets in your ads that are predicted, expected to perform well, even for a subset of searchers that you may not have reached otherwise. So always think about that when you're looking at why maybe an asset that has fewer impressions is rated well. And then when you see low rated assets, you want to swap those out and start testing new assets to improve performance. Okay. And this is the last thing I really want to highlight is ad strength. There's a lot of confusion about ad strength. It's purely a diagnostic tool that reflects 4 attributes: headlines, keyword relevance of your headlines and descriptions, uniqueness of your headlines, and the uniqueness of descriptions. And these are all 4 attributes that we've seen correlate to better performance, more conversions, for example, through regression analysis. And if you're using automatically creative assets, those are also going to factor into your ad strength, again, because they help increase the number of ad combinations that can potentially match to a query. And so you want to continue to build out your manual assets if you're using ACA, and you can see that reflected in your ad strength. That's why. A couple of just quick myth busting. Ad strength there's a myth that it's a factor in the auction and will impact your CPCs and the ability of your ads to serve. No, it's not an auction factor. It has no bearing on whether or not your ad serves, and it doesn't hold back or promote your ads based on that ad strength. Pinning, when you use pinning, and we know it's necessary, that's why it exists, that's why we have it there, but when you use pinning, you will see the impact on ad strength. Again, all that is signaling is that as you're pinning, you're reducing the number of combinations available. And so that's, again, why we also recommend pinning 2 to 3 assets per position if you're going to use pinning. But that's why you're going to see pinning have an impact on ad strength. And again, low ad strength is not going to limit your impressions. So to sum up, fundamentals really matter. Your landing pages and assets matter. Your business insights and your inputs that you alone can bring. You know what you know about your business. Your measurement, branding, strategy, and marketers all matter in this time of AI. So, with that, we can open it up for questions.
Phew. Oh my gosh. I just wanted to sit and applaud at every slide. Ginny, there's so much amazingness. And thank God Google has you, because there's just so much goodness coming out, especially in the stage of AI, all of these updates, all of these, and then to connect the dots between, almost like advanced fundamentals to advanced new releases. It's humongous. So thank God for you, Ginny, for helping keep industry up to speed. And I know there's loads of questions coming in, and I want to throw you a quick one, Ginny, before we go and look at what the audience says, which is ad strength. Now, is that related to ad quality score or ad rank at all?
No. Great question. They're totally separate. And so ad strength, you can really think of it as just a diagnostic tool that was created along with and specifically for responsive search ads to help advertisers understand essentially how do these things work. They're totally different than previous ads where you had a fixed set of here's my headline description, and because RSAs work fundamentally different, ad strength really is just a tool to help you understand the factors that we've seen help make a great ad or effective ad. Opportunity, right? So it's sort of like an opportunity metric is how I think of it, because it's reflecting, do you have the diversity of assets? Are your assets going to be relevant? Are they unique? And again, relevancy. So when you're thinking about, as you're building out your RSAs and you're seeing that ad strength change, you'll be able to see which of those factors is either kind of contributing to or lessening your ad strength. And you can make an informed decision. The key I always go back to is understanding what what these tools are indicating. And from there, you can make your own informed decisions. But again, understanding that it doesn't have any relation to ad rank or quality score. It doesn't have any impact on the auction. It's a totally separate, just diagnostic score. I think will really help you as you're starting to get more comfortable and help be able to understand, like, what is this reflecting? How should I react or not react to whatever my score is? Again, we will say that you want to aim for at least one ad with a good or excellent ad strength. And again, that just goes back to, like, that's what we see, that advertisers with at least one of those ads in their ad group has better performance. So again, take that for the insight that we have and do your own testing.
That is such great advice, right? Nothing can, you have to test everything for yourself. So like nothing beats like testing it out in all things. Like your mileage may vary, which is why we always get the flag for like, oh, it depends, but it really does depend. And so I think just to sort of reiterate that a high ad strength does not guarantee amazing performance, but you having one is helpful. And then if you do have low, it'll be great. But otherwise, folks, keep your questions coming in. It's such an awesome chance to talk to Ginny. I know I have loads of questions for you, Ginny. So rather than be selfish and hog all of the questions, I'll do that. And I'll also just caveat that if you're having an individual account problem, probably this is not the best platform for us to solve it, either with LinkedIn, either with Google, because neither of us have access to your account. And it's better to talk to either your rep or a team. But let me go down to some of the questions that we're hearing just in terms of industry overall and marketers and what's top of mind. I think it's no surprise. It's no shock to anyone. It's been a tough last year and a half. And what we're starting to see, especially with LinkedIn's like B2B report that came out, was that there's increased confidence now in marketers and coming back to investing in sort of the digital marketing, where a lot of the times like budgets were cut. Is that something you're seeing as well? Or what advice would you have for marketers who are able to maybe see some loosening finally of the purse strings and budget?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things come to mind. One is, and I know I keep coming back to the fundamentals, but one of the things that I do often see, and I have to get over this myself, like this is just a constant reminder as a marketer of being very cautious when you find yourself using absolutes. This always works. This never works. This is the only way to do it. If anyone tells you XYZ otherwise, they don't know what they're talking about. So constantly rethinking and taking a fresh look at your campaigns and the insights you're getting, trying new tests. If something worked, again, especially with all of these AI tools, what we've seen time and time again is that the machines get better and these features get better. And when I see folks who say, oh, I tried this, it didn't work, and that was 2 years ago, much less 6 months ago, it kind of is a little bit heartbreaking, because there's opportunity being left on the table with that kind of mindset. And so much of this change really does require mindset shifts and change management, which is, no lie, is hard. But, I would just really encourage folks to sort of check their thinking and their mindset, and thinking, am I thinking in a learning and growth mode, or am I thinking in this worked yesterday, which means it will continue to work and is the only way to work going forward? So, that's important now. It's been important, since we got into digital, right? Like, just things are just constantly changing and evolving. So I think that would be
I agree. I think that's the only absolute that we can confidently go out and saying, is that things will always be changing, and that's just the nature marketing. And so, again, focusing on some of the things that don't change, such as those strong fundamentals that you so wisely advise, Ginny, like that's the place to start looking. If things are opening up, don't just be like, I tried this a year ago, or I tried this. Like for me, every time I get that answer, I'm like, okay, this is awesome data. Like, tell me you've actually narrowed down your scope. So tell me, like, what did you try? How did you try it? When did you try it? And then sometimes there's so many learnings that, oh, maybe you could do this actually in a different way versus the way you did it. So I strongly agree. And I know we've got some questions coming in. So speaking of testing, Adrian has a question that's, you wanted your advice on whether to have 1 or 2 RSAs per ad group. And Adrian is of the opinion to start with 2 different assets. The question's on the screen, then create a mega third ad with top performers. Ginny, do you have any point of view on that?
Yeah, so I think, is it 2 different assets or 2 different ads? Well, it doesn't matter. I again would say I love the test mentality. It's like testing is phenomenal. And Adrian, as you're seeing what's working and iterating on that, I think one of the things to think about is having a third ad. What is that getting you? Are you talking about, are you pausing the other 2 and having your top performer solely 2 different ads with different ads for faster insights? Okay. Yeah, I've definitely seen that work. I think also if you want to start with 1 ad and start understanding kind of what the assets are, it's, again, I would say what's where you're getting those faster insights. I love that. And again, it's really about testing and iterating. I mean, as soon as you see those low performers, how can I switch this out and replace it with another option, and try to test how that's going as well.
Awesome. And now the next question that I know we'll usually get with this advent of AI and all of these amazing AI features that you see on Google, that we see at LinkedIn, like a very common question that I'll get when talking to marketers is that, I like to have more control, or, I'd rather trust myself versus hand out to a machine. Like, what's some advice that you say to people who might be nervous about testing some of the AI features, which no doubt can make life a lot easier?
Yeah, I think one, first and foremost, make sure that your assets and your landing pages and everything are going to be good informers for the AI, and then have a plan in place for either, if it's if you're doing it in campaign construction, really just making sure that you're going through that process of reviewing everything, making sure things are accurate, that they properly reflect your brand, and then before publishing. If you're using something like automatically created assets, which will generate headlines and descriptions, again, based on grounded in your landing pages and assets, that's something that is reactive. And so, again, you kind of build in that process for continuous monitoring and evaluation, and you can remove any ACAs that you no longer want to serve, or you could say, oh, this is actually a really good idea that I hadn't thought about, and incorporate it either permanently in a manual asset or elsewhere in your campaigns or marketing efforts.
So smart. I mean, all of these things are there to save you time. They're not meant to replace the human side of things. And I always advise folks that you can always do a manual review and still rely on your human takes. But if it can save you a little time to get it set up, if the whole reason you're like, oh, I'll start tomorrow, and you're procrastinating because you're like, oh, I just need to have the time and the space to set it up, like just get the rough draft, and then you can give it a little whirl. Now, no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that, it's called the conversational experience in the campaign workflow for Performance Max. I mean, I think going back to sort of the growth and learning mindset is, if you're starting to ask prompts and you're seeing assets that are generated that aren't relevant or seem like they're not going to be effective, that's okay. And either, maybe you want to do a different prompt, refine your prompt, or there may be assets in there that seem like they're going to be low performance, but might be worth a test. Again, it's sort of that keeping that open mind. I can't tell you the number of times that I have had an asset or a landing page test, right, that I thought was going to be a dud and ended up performing well. So that's just one thing I would keep in mind as you're starting to use these tools and thinking about how they work and how to work with them.
I love that. And that's super stellar advice. Even in B2B marketing, sometimes on the long sales cycles, everyone's like, oh, I wouldn't click on that. Or like, my boss wants me to go out with this. And I'm like, but you are not the audience for your marketing. So your audience is the audience. It has to appeal to them. And so many times if we go in with like, oh, but my boss wants me to do this, or this is important for us to say, and I should say it this way, that can be a recipe for disaster, because it's like the echo chamber. So the fact that AI can come in and have something completely different that we could not have thought of is super exciting. And it's one of those big advantages. So as you said, like, embrace testing. And who was it? There was an AI professor, and I believe it's UPenn, I might be wrong, but his quote was that this is the worst that AI is ever going to be. Like, it's just going to get better and better every day. So like every so often you'll see someone being like, oh, look at this mistake. I'm like, yes, but look at these like 500 things that did amazingly well, and just wait till next week and then it'll be already like significantly a multiplier times better. But anyway, I want to move on to more questions. So Ginny, video is like all over the place. Like, everyone's talking about video. There's so much buzz around video. Like, what's your advice to folks who might be looking at video assets or video ad formats?
Yeah. So I know video is just a huge opportunity, and it has also been a big roadblock for a lot of businesses who are strapped for resources, whether you're an SMB or, I mean, there are plenty of enterprises that still struggle with generating assets and having the resources. So I think this is, again, a really interesting time to be able to explore and open up channels for many more businesses to be able to explore and experiment with video. So things like even just the simple ability to add subtle animation to your product images and be able to use that for video inventory, and some of the tools to take landscape-oriented video and automatically turn them into portrait view. So I think that's super exciting. I think it's just huge opportunities. I think also on the platform side, I think there's going to be a lot of improvements here. I know auto-generated video in Google Ads has perhaps not been the prettiest and most aesthetically pleasing, and there's been a lot of frustration around the ability for those formats to adequately represent a brand style and brand voice. And so that's where I think the brand guidelines in PMax, for example, are just going to have a huge impact in making auto-generated video assets that much more accessible and usable and performative for advertisers. So if you've been sort of standing on the sidelines of video, I think now is sort of this, like, and I will say like an early golden age. I don't, we're not even to where we can be, but it's a good start. And to be able to have much more and many more effective options for video. So if you have not been doing that, I would check that out.
exciting. Video is just all the buzz. We hear so much about it here at LinkedIn too. Like short form video has been so well received. People are spending so much time consuming video because it's such a natural format. And the cool thing that I'm also noticing is it does not always have to be the super highly produced, like perfection videos, which sometimes can also push people away. Like, oh, I don't have like that much budget as like a Fortune 50 company, so I can't do video. Where it's actually not like lo-fi, simple videos that you can even create from your phone, or as you said, the AI, like the very cool, you can turn the image into a video, which is such a cool animation, simple things like this. Now we can't talk video about talking placement. So whether it's like connected TV, whether it's display, whether it's off platform, there's so much buzz right now about omni-channel, or just even, there's search, display, search and social better together, search and display better together. What are you seeing? What advice do you have? And then Jason, I see your question. I'll come back to it in a moment. So sorry, I'm like selfishly getting in all my questions for Ginny.
Yeah. I mean, certainly with things like Performance Max and demand gen campaigns, the idea is to be able to easily scale across channels, and they're both goal-based campaign types. So you know your goals, you know your business objectives better than Google does. And so I think there's, certainly that's the thesis behind these campaign types, is to be able to make it easier to be in more places and reach your consumers where they are, with the right formats, and that are appropriate for the medium that they're consuming and engaging with. And so I think a lot of what you're seeing with these tools is being able to help advertisers diversify their opportunities to reach consumers or their target customers in the right way, wherever they happen to be.
Exactly. The search cycles are getting longer, and you want people, just one mention isn't enough. Like, oh, like they saw my search ad. Why didn't they just buy straight away? Because they were not in the mood to buy. Maybe they were busy. They were coming back. So you're right. Got to reach your audience, be there where they are with the right mindset. So Jason, thank you for your question. So Jason's question is, with AI overviews, users will be able to ask much more detailed questions. So how might we want to show relevant ads for all of this infinite variety of questions users might ask?
This is such a great question. And certainly something that we're seeing are longer, the growth in longer, more complex queries is something that we're definitely seeing. I think, this is where broad match really is designed to shine, along with when you couple broad match with responsive search ads and smart bidding. The three of those together really are designed to work together, to be able to match to more relevant queries with more relevant ads at the right bid, again, based on your goals and the predicted expectation to be able to meet those goals. So when you're thinking about AI overviews, just to remind that those ads will be matched based on both the user's query and the information within the AI overview itself. And so those signals will be used to then understand like which ads and are going to be best served for the user. I hope that answers the question, Jason.
Please feel to add more clarification. If not, the other important thing that I'm loving this conversation that's happening amongst marketers is that everyone's not just so bottom funnel focused. Like more and more people are talking about, how do I build brand awareness, or how do I nurture? Oh, Jason confirmed it does answer. So thank you. And thanks for asking that, Jason. Keep your questions coming in. for example, something we hear a lot on LinkedIn, or especially with B2B advertisers, is that sales cycles have just gotten longer. So it's so much harder to keep serving the same old ads, the same old content to people when they're like, don't hit me on the head for like 9 months if the cycle went from 3 to 9 months. But what are some of the advice that you would have for marketers today to be like, yes, of course, lead gen is so important. Search is, of course, a very typically lower funnel channel. But given that there's display, there's YouTube, there's all of these other things in the, just literally in the Google mix. Same thing with LinkedIn. We've got our display, we've got our LinkedIn audience network, etc. So how would you advise marketers to think about just full funnel and go beyond just the buy now, sign up now, order now?
Yeah, I think it's such a good point, and it really does go beyond whatever. It goes cross-platform, whether you're working in Google Ads or LinkedIn or Meta or wherever. This is fairly universal behavior that we're seeing from your customers and or potential customers. Is people are not just searching, clicking, buying. Sometimes they are, obviously, but the customer journey has gotten more complex. It has gotten longer. It's gotten more involved, and so. And with that also is our changes that we're seeing on the privacy front, and with less data being visible. And so really understanding the insights and the data that you're able to capture, being able to then understand how to leverage all the tools at your disposal for getting in your customer mindset. What do they want to know? Where they are in the discovery phase or the research phase, every phase of your funnel, and thinking about how your touch points can connect and help them along that funnel. And I know we can think about it as a funnel. We can think about it as a squiggly, however you want to visualize it. And there are many different, very valid ways of thinking about it. But really it is a, how do you make sure that you're informing your customer where they are in the mode and modality that will best suit them, and obviously understanding that you've got customers and all along that path.
Exactly. And you mentioned data. So I'm going to ask a question about measurement. But before I do that, Adrian had made a really good point about, I feel like the funnel is sideways and more of a loop, and we should focus on engaging community. And there's so much truth to that. In fact, some of my colleagues in the B2B Institute at LinkedIn, they were like, yes, if we flip the funnel on the side at it, 95% of your audience is not even like in the funnel yet. They're not ready to buy, especially this is much more so like relevant to B2B, but only like 5% are ready to buy at any given point. For the other 95%, you just want to make sure that they are primed and ready to select you when the time has come. So there is that sort of always on awareness that just needs to be there. So thank you for that comment. And so right, Jenny. Let's go to measurement and data. Let's take one last question before we wrap up, which is around what advice do you have for marketers now? You know, cookies are going away. There's all of this hubbub, there's GA4, there's all of these other releases. Like any sort of pearls of wisdom or like just ginniness advice that you have for marketers on, you know, how they can think about marketing today. At LinkedIn, for example, we have conversions API. We're encouraging more folks to connect so that way they can really look at their own data. We have like revenue attribution reporting within the platform that advertisers are really finding tons of value in. Like what would you advise?
Yeah, I'm actually, so I've, not to plug another self-promotion, but I've also wrote an article in March, again, for Search Engine Journal about kind of creating a privacy measurement plan for 2024 and beyond. And this was before we knew that Chrome was changing the cookie deprecation timeline, but I still, like, I wouldn't let that distract you. I think there's still so much value in making sure your measurement plan is in place kind of regardless of what happens on the Chrome side. So I'm going back to fundamentals is tagging, like making sure that your tagging is set up right and properly, and that you've got, you're capturing as much as you can, because, as we're seeing more and more as less data is visible, modeling is becoming more and more important. And so you want to make sure that that modeling is built on a good foundation of what is visible. So making sure that you're just capturing as much of the visible data as you can, which will then help ensure that what gets modeled is going to be a good reflection of what's happening. And so that would be the big thing, is really just making sure that you've got your tagging in place. And it's always, I would say, it's kind of one of those things you might set and forget. So maybe having kind of a refresher review plan in place, and perhaps this summer might be a good time to just do a quick review of, like, do we have our tagging in place? And then I think, there's been so much talked about first party data, but it really is your, again, going to be foundational to your efforts for reaching and marketing to those and helping to model on those you don't know, to help expand your reach and your measurement, and build those audience insights that you wouldn't get otherwise. So creating that that one-to-one relationship with your customers is just, I cannot emphasize that enough. And that, it comes more naturally to some business segments than others, but check on your tagging. And if you don't have a first party data plan in place, like, start blocking out time to bring people together in your organization and start thinking about, where do you have data? Is the data clean? Is it accurate? Do you have good capturing mechanisms? Do you have good MarTech in place? Do you have your integrations in place? And prioritizing that.
So brilliant. And Ginny, like, I love that we didn't plan this, but you tied the perfect bow on this entire session, where it just goes back to the fundamentals, right? We're so often, as marketers, we fall into this trap of running after or chasing the next silver bullet. And so often success just lies in the foundational, the so-called, basics, but getting advanced basics or advanced fundamental, like paying attention. It will serve you well, both from your targeting, from your ad create, from your creative testing to measurement. There's just so much there and so much goodness. Of course, make sure that those are correct. Luckily, it's not something that you need to spend hours and hours and hours on constantly. It's like, pay attention, check them so often, have that plan, and then you'll be better set up to explore and test all of these new amazing tools and products and features that have come out. So Ginny, if people have more questions, where's the best place you'd like them to find you?
You can find me at Ads Liaison on X, and you can find me at Ginny Marvin on LinkedIn. I'm active on both. I'm also Ginny Marvin on X or Twitter, but I tend to engage more at Ads Liaison, and I'm also at Ads Liaison on Threads as well, which is a little less active. But yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn and X, and I look forward to chatting. And thank you so much, Perna. I wanted to say one thing is that, your work on content marketing is also, that content marketing is also so foundational to, yes, if you've not checked out Perna's book, I cannot recommend it enough. It's amazing. And, content, like, as we started talking about in this conversation, how much your content is just really key, whether that's in your landing pages, your assets, how it threads through the customer journey narrative that you're taking your customers on and keeping them engaged with. So thank you also for your work and enterprising.
Jenny, you're so kind and you're too good to me. And I'm going to record this and just replay it on days that are really sucky. But otherwise, don't forget to also follow Ginny on Search Engine Journal, where she has her amazing column with all the latest and greatest. But otherwise, thank you all so much. And I know that Judah will be making all of the slides and recording shared out right after for all of that. But thank you all so much for coming in. Ginny, thank you. The chat was filled with people saying like amazing advice, amazing wisdom. So as ever a moment that I spend with you that I do not feel just sunshine and warm and fuzzy inside, but also just so much smarter in my brain. So my heart and mind is very full. Thank you all so much. This was fantastic. And thank you everyone for being here. Bye.